One of the most important concepts under cryptography and actually even in cybersecurity is encryption. So under encryption, we are going to talk about the different types of encryption and some concepts under encryption. So what is encryption? Encryption is a method of transforming readable data that you can read like this text, to an unreadable form. So the readable form is called plain text because you can read it. It's plain text, and the unreadable form is called ciphertext. So take note of those keywords highlighted in red. You have plain text. You are converting plain text to ciphertext. So once the plain text is converted to ciphertext, neither a human nor a machine can process it until it is decrypted. So you cannot understand. You cannot make a meaning out of it. Only the intended systems can make sense out of it. And what happens in encryption? Encryption uses keys, digital keys to encrypt the data. Encryption uses keys to encrypt the data, so to make it unreadable. So let's take a look at an example here. An illustration. Here you have uh, the plain text that says, today we are studying network security. So what happens? You add a digital key, which is like a piece of code, and the resulting value you have is a ciphertext. So the ciphertext is not supposed to make any sense. That's what it looks like. It's not always this, but that's what it's supposed to look like. Now, decryption is the opposite of encryption. So decryption takes the ciphertext or the encrypted data and converts it back to plain text, so to a readable form. So when you're decrypting data, you're taking it back to the original form. So this is what decryption looks like. You take the ciphertext, you use a key. It can be the same or it can be a different key. We will go over that. And you have the plain text. So you're back to the plain text. So you're decrypting the text. So you can leave from plain text to ciphertext with encryption, or ciphertext back to plain text with decryption. So take note of the difference between the two words. And there are two main types of encryption. You have symmetric encryption and you have asymmetric encryption. Yeah, these are the two main types, and we will talk about the difference between both. First, you have symmetric encryption. Symmetric encryption, think of a mirror where there is a symmetry. In symmetric encryption, the same key, it uses one key. The same key is used for encryption and decryption. So the key you use to encrypt is the same key you use to decrypt. That's symmetric encryption. So for example, here you have the plain text. It can be a picture, it can be an image, it can be a video, it can be a PDF file, a Word document, it can be any kind of document. When you encrypt with this key right here, the key is called PRK12. No, don't worry about the naming. You have the ciphertext. Now, to leave from this ciphertext to the original plain text, you have to use the same key in symmetric encryption to get back to the original plain text. It has to be the same key. As for symmetric encryption. Now, in asymmetric encryption, two keys are used. Two keys, and we call them public key and private key. So one key is public, one key is private, and the two are mathematically related. The public key and the private key. The public key can be known to everyone. The private key should always be kept private. It should not be known to anyone else. So the public keys, it can be known to the public. Private key should never be known. So here you have first a computer that generates the two keys. You have a public key PUK45, which is just a random name, and a private key PRK45. Now the two are mathematically related. So once they're generated, the public key can only unlock the private key, and the private key can only unlock what was enforced with the public key. So here, in the same way, if you encrypt with the public key, PUK, the blue one, and you get the ciphertext, now you're going to decrypt the ciphertext with the private key, not with the public key, with the private key. So if you try to decrypt this text or this ciphertext with the same key that you encrypted with, in asymmetric encryption, it's not going to work. So think of it like At the bank with the safe, you need two keys. One key from the bank and one key from your own. The bank key is like public, everyone within the bank can help you open the safe, but you are the only one with your the key to your safe. And you need those two keys for the safe to open. So if this can help um, explain a little bit more about the asymmetric encryption. So keys are random values used to perform either encryption or decryption. And like we just showed, the public keys are shared openly for encryption and decryption. Private keys are only known to the owner. So the public key, as the name implies, is public, and it's also for trust. It's shared openly. Meanwhile, the private keys are only known to the key's owner. So, and then you have a concept called the key escrow. The key escrow is a system in which the keys are stored securely by a third party. You are storing the keys securely with a third party, usually called the key escrow. Now, just to dive in a little bit deeper in the difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption, just to summarize the difference between both. One key is used to encrypt in symmetric encryption. Meanwhile, in asymmetric encryption, two keys are used for encryption and decryption. In symmetric encryption, the key should always be private. It should never be known to anyone else. Meanwhile, in asymmetric encryption, two keys are used, the public key and the private key. Public key known to everyone, private key should never be revealed, never. Anything encrypted with the public key, with the key in symmetric encryption should only be decrypted with the same key. Meanwhile, in asymmetric encryption, anything encrypted with the public key can only be decrypted with the matching private key, and vice versa. So take note of the difference between both. Very important concept in cryptography and in encryption. When we talk about encryption, there are some important concepts that have to be covered, like the algorithms, the encryption algorithms. In encryption algorithms, what are algorithms? These are procedures that are used to encrypt and decrypt data. And you have a very popular algorithm called AES, Advanced Encryption Standard, AES, that's supposed to be secure. Like that's a secure algorithm. Meanwhile, DES is not a secure algorithm. It used to be the case back in 40 plus years ago, but it's not secure anymore. So the secure version in use today is AES, Advanced Encryption Standard. Key exchange. What is key exchange? This is the process of exchanging digital keys between two parties. So between one user and another user, or one device and another device, they exchange keys securely. And there is an algorithm called the Diffie-Hellman algorithm. So it uses the Diffie-Hellman key exchange to exchange keys. So take note of that. Whenever you hear Diffie-Hellman, it's probably for key exchange. It's probably in a key exchange question. The key length is the size of the key that's used in an encryption, and it's typically measured in bits. So the longer keys provide more security. AES, the encryption standard that we talked about, encryption algorithm we talked about earlier, AES has keys of 256 bit long. Meanwhile, DES are shorter. They're like 56 bits. So AES is more secure. It's a more secure algorithm. And then when we talk of key stretching, this is a method to make keys more secure. So key stretching, you're making keys. It's a technique used to make a digital key more secure. A few more concepts under encryption. First, you have full disk encryption. What is full disk encryption? This is a method to encrypt all the data on the disk. So you have your hard drive, you have a disk, you have the hard disk, you're encrypting everything. It doesn't matter. For example, if we have our hard drive here that contains some documents, it contains a few pictures here, like Steph Curry, like Karim Benzema from Real Madrid, like a spreadsheet, a Word document, PowerPoint, PDF, and a music video. Now, how can you encrypt what is full disk encryption? What will that look like? Full disk encryption will be encrypting all the files, everything in your disk. So that's FDE for full disk encryption. FDE, take note of the acronym here. Partition encryption encrypts a specific partition on a disk rather than the entire disk. So for example, if you have your disk and it's partitioned in three, so it has three different partitions. Now, how will you do a partition encryption? You can decide to encrypt only the disk A, for example, but then the rest stays the same, for example. So you are only encrypting the partition A of the disk. File encryption, here you are encrypting individual files. So you are not encrypting the whole disk or a specific partition, but you decide which particular file you encrypt. For example, here we encrypted the family pics folder. So this is another method. Database encryption encrypts data within a database to protect data stored, to protect sensitive information. So you can have a database with people's first names, last names, social security number, and more. And you can have more. And you decide to encrypt the database such that, you know, if anyone is able to download that or find the file, nothing will make sense within the database. So on the left, you have the unencrypted version of the database with social security numbers. And on the right, you have random characters. Nothing makes sense. Record encryption. Record encryption encrypts individual records within a database or within a file. So the example of the database, here you can, you know, encrypt one specific row, one specific line within the database. So these are a few more types of encryption. You have full disk, encrypt the entire disk. You have partition, you're encrypting a specific partition. You have file, encrypting individual files. You can encrypt the whole database, or you can encrypt the record within the database. And you have specific algorithms. You have AES, which is secure. DES is not secure. Diffie-Hellman is used for key exchange. And then the key length is the size of the key that you use in encryption. The longer the length, the more secure your encryption will be.
All right, guys, was that interesting? If so, then subscribe to our YouTube channel and also follow us on all our social media platforms, including Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, to know more and be the first people to see our amazing content that we have for you. Thanks, guys. We're glad to have you.